Locally owned near you in Rivergate, Smyrna, Brentwood, White House, Surmount, Julian. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast. Ramon Foster and Will Bowling joined by VolQuest's Austin Price for his weekly conversation with us, getting the latest out of Knoxville. Good morning, Austin. How are you?
I'm doing great. Christy O'Brien's doing that great traffic promo, and then the glass breaks. That's a great wrestling, just like jumping the promo,
I love it. There's a lane closed in Jolton. I love it.
Christy, shout out to Christy. I've never met her, but I guarantee she's awesome.
A little bit of slow-go on 440. It's Austin. Here we go on a Tuesday morning. Great way to start the morning. Austin, you had the report over the weekend that Joey Aguilar was going to be on campus on Monday. It is now Tuesday. Is Joey Aguilar there, and what have been the first hours like for him as he meets his coaches and teammates, perhaps in person?
He arrived yesterday and was in the building yesterday afternoon, spending time with what teammates are still in town, and then the coaching staff who is in town and not out recruiting. So able to kind of hit the ground running yesterday and, kind of start looking at offensive installs for himself. Obviously, already installed for everybody else, but, kind of going over, the playbook and just kind of, familiarizing himself with the building, seeing faces and kind of getting to know everybody.
So, Austin, what is this time of year like for these players and player-led workouts that can be happening, in the coming weeks? Obviously, the summer and the fall, in the way things have been now for a few years. But what is kind of the order of operations now as exams get done? I mean, how many players are still on campus to work with him or work with other position groups?
Very few. Most of them are headed to the house and, they get done with the semester and, head off to get a, couple of week break before they got to be back here for really when it begins in June. They hit the ground running with all their summer stuff, with the strength and conditioning staff, and June and July leads right up to fall camp. So this is kind of that last true getaway before really things get cranked up. Now, there's some downtime, obviously, in June and July, but at the same time, for the most part, man, those guys are really hitting the ground running and really going full force, come the 1st of July, or sorry, the 1st of June.
Austin Price with us this morning. Austin, man, this is also the time of year it seems like recruiting kind of amps up a little bit more as far as coaches and commitments and stuff like that, man. One of the Vols commitments, Tyreek King out of Knoxville, man, said he's shutting it down. He's a top 100 recruit, man. What does that mean for the Vols as far as the receiving corps and what's to come the rest of this summer? Well, Ramon, it was also a phenomenal question. So much so that it made Austin not be able to have an answer
Austin,
right there.
You still got us?
No, sorry.
There he is.
Guys. We've got out of posturing season. We're now to that point where they are, going to start taking visits. You got 865 Live coming up Memorial Day weekend on that Saturday. Tennessee's going to have a ton of top targets in that weekend. And Tennessee's hit rate has been really, really good on kids that attend 865 Live and subsequently attend an official visit, 2 to 4 weeks later. It's not fail-proof, obviously, because you can't take everybody and not everybody's going to, want to come. But their hit rate's been really pretty good during Josh Heupel's tenure here with that event leading into OVs in June. Getting your top players here will be very, very important. Tyreek King has been committed for a long time. To get him unwavering and focused on recruiting to help you for the next month is big because, he's a top 100 player, really fantastic athlete. I think his best football is still ahead of him. I don't think, he is not an old player for his age. In other words, he's not a holdback that's, going to be 19 come the fall. This is a kid who's still really young in the grand scheme of things. And so I think it was big. There's a lot of chatter out there, he simply wanted to have games called by Ramon Foster, and that's a big reason he shut it down.
See, don't we all?
I knew he'd circle back around with that. That was good right there, Austin. By the way, I got chastised, on Friday by Hubs, too, man. He didn't appreciate our relationship that we had on the air the other day. He said you said something ill about him, and he felt like he needed to bring that over the airways, just so you know.
Well, because somebody put it on Twitter, put the audio on Twitter. It was fantastic.
Yeah, snitches get stitches.
That's right.
Is what we doing. With that being said, we've talked a lot about everybody else this spring, man. And with Larry Johnson leaving, that means that David Sanders Jr. is probably going to be the right tackle. How's his progress going as far as you know? And honestly, the expectation of him being able to man that potential starting right tackle spot, Austin?
Well, I think he was going to be the right tackle anyway, but it obviously puts a lot more pressure on him. By all accounts, he's continued to do everything the right way, continues to thrive. Had a really good, strong spring practice for a true freshman, but he'll need to continue that. This is he needs to have a big summer because he needs to put on added weight. Athletically, he is as gifted as they come, but he still needs to put on 10 to 15 more pounds. If he does that, which is pretty easy to do with the nutrition program and all the weight staff and all that. If he's able to do that, then I think, it boils down to just getting experience and doing what he knows how to do. So he's going to be Tennessee's starting right tackle. And then the real question is who is, options 3 and 4 behind he and Lance Hurd, Bennett Warren, Jesse Perry, kind of who is that next in line if one of those two have to come out of the football game.
Austin Price of VolQuest's on 3, our guests this morning, on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. On the recruiting front, Austin, I know Craig Tutt and Zion Gibson are two guys who Tennessee continues to meet with. Craig Tutt, the safety here out of Oakland and Murfreesboro. Zion Gibson, the highly touted Alabama commitment, ranked to the top 75 players by On3. How good can this 2026 class be, Austin, as a whole? And where are they with those two guys as they continue to meet with them in person?
I think a lot of it depends, Will, on Tennessee's ability to close some of these recruitments out over the next 6 weeks. I think that'll be, really the thing that tells the tale on, how high this class can be. Can it be top 10? Matt Ray, who works with me, obviously believes it can be. I think it can be. I think they just have to go out and win some of these battles, which means you got to flip a guy like Zion Gibson, right? You got to land guys like Craig Tutt and Zach Groves and Joel Wyatt from your own home state.
Yeah.
You've got to go outside the state and bring in an offensive lineman or two, a couple other edge pass rushers, a linebacker or 3. So I think being able to venture outside the state and get a player even like a guy like Savion Hyder, top ranked running back in the country. You're in a really good spot with him. To me, it's Tennessee versus Michigan. Ohio State and Georgia are right behind those two, but I think at the top it's Tennessee and Michigan. You got to land a guy like that because he's going to alter where your class is ranked. And so I think that for Tennessee to get top 10, you've got to land your fair share of Joel Wyatt, in-state, highly thought of, top 50 top player, Savion Hyder, 5-star tailback, out of the state of Virginia, so on and so forth.
And also, that was exactly my next question. There's been kind of a white whale that Tennessee has been in the mix for these past couple of seasons. It was Francis Mauigoa. It was Jordan Seaton. Tennessee was kind of the bridesmaid, not the bride. And they were able to secure that guy, David Sanders, last time around. Do you see Savion Hyder being that top-level target this time around? And what is it going to take for Tennessee to beat the Ohio States and the Michigans of the world? Is it NIL? Is it, coaching staff things? Just how do they kind of continue to get over the hump in a science that, as you know as well as anyone, is a very inexact one year to year?
Well, exactly, and every kid's different. I mean, it may not be NIL, as we said here in May, and by the time you get to June and all the offers come in, it may be NIL, right? I mean, you just don't know. Because every recruitment changes and it morphs and, it evolves as the recruitment goes along. So Tennessee did a great job of landing David Sanders a year ago, where they did miss out on Francis Mauigoa or Jordan Seaton, the 2 previous classes.
Austin,
all those were offensive linemen. Hyder is a running back. Tennessee's yet to land a premier, top 50 type player, number one running back type player, and here Savion Hyder is a realistic opportunity for Tennessee. And if Tennessee can get him down here for 865 Live, I think that's a real possibility. If they can get him down here for 865 Live and then, get him back on his official visit, I think Tennessee's chances go up dramatically.
Awesome. When you look at just how recruiting evolves and unfolds in front of us, is there any blowback as far as the Maliava situation on the West Coast, as in relation to what the Vols are and the perception moving forward, or is it just a one-off situation you think moving forward?
I think a lot of one-off. Now, can Tennessee go out and recruit Polynesian kids at a high level? I don't know. Maybe that's where it's affected, but I don't think West Coast kids are going, the whole thing with Nico blew up. And because every kid moves, so many kids move around. You look at the quarterbacks that were drafted in this last NFL cycle, and it's like Shadur went from Jackson State to Colorado, and Dylan Gabriel went from, UCF to Oklahoma to UCLA for 5 seconds, or maybe it was UCLA, then Oklahoma. Either way, he was there for 5 seconds. And then now at Oregon, right? All those quarterbacks were transfer-type players. Jackson Dart started his career on the West Coast and went to Ole Miss. So I don't think moving around really alters things. And I don't think it ever got adversarial in the media. Josh Heupel took the high road. Yal Maliava and his family, outside of a few tweets, really kind of just laid low and, let it play out. So I don't think so, Ramon. I guess you don't truly know, but I don't think so, because at the end of the day, if the check's clear, most of these kids don't care if you're running through the tee or you're wearing houndstooth or you're saying gig 'em or any of that stuff anymore. It's, did the check clear? Okay, we're good. The check cleared.
Makes sense. On the other side of things, too, when you Will and I had a conversation yesterday as far as Joey Aguilar being on campus. And he asked the question, does Joey win? And I said, well, who does the staff want to win the starting quarterback position? Starting quarterback going into the fall. Also, is there a little bit of, they much rather have it be Aguilar considering his experience, or does Jake Merklinker really have a strong chance to win this? Because I do think coaches have plans that they like to see. They just never really say it.
Yeah, I think everybody has a real opportunity, and that's not hyperbole. It's not, lip speak. I think ultimately, this is a real competition. Do I think that Joey maybe has an inside track or Jake has an inside track because they've been here longer or had more experience elsewhere longer than maybe George does? Yeah, sure. Okay. But I think George, if he went out and just played well, would have an opportunity as well. I don't think that the staff is going to turn their nose up at anybody if they can give them a chance to win. So, but experience matters. Ramon, when you were a rookie in the NFL versus you're an 8-year vet, who was better?
Yeah, I was there.
Maybe your body didn't feel as good as a rookie, but you were more experienced and you were a better player. And I think when you've had that experience, at Appalachian State for the last couple of years, and I think both good and bad, right? I think last year when you're running for your life and you don't have a lot of playmakers and you're making mistakes, I think you learn from all that. So, for Joey, he's got the experience, but he has no experience in the offense. Merklinger has no experience, but he has a year and a half in the offense. Mm-hmm. So I think it's an open competition, and I don't think that they really care who wins the job. I think they want both to push each other. Iron sharpens iron, as everybody says, and, see where it lands come, let's say, second or third week of August.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Price of VolQuest's with us. So, Austin, I thought it was interesting after Tennessee's Saturday loss to Vanderbilt, just the way Tony Vitello talked about his pitching staff and talked about his team. And, Austin, it seems to me like he's kind of fed up. He's kind of throwing up his hands saying, I've tried almost everything I can at this point. Maybe this team just doesn't have that edge to it that last year's team had, even that a couple of years ago when they started slowly and caught fire late had. How frustrated does it feel like he is, Austin, just maybe with this team? And what is Tennessee's pathway to break it out of this slump? Or is this just kind of who they are at this point?
I don't think it's who they are, right? I mean, you could have said the same thing about the golf team. I mean, I thought, okay, just get to regionals, and that's the ceiling for the Tennessee golf team. And yet here they are leading through 2 of 3 rounds. All they have to do is finish in the top 5 to make it to La Costa and the NCAA championships. I mean, like, no one saw that coming. So I don't want to say that's just who they are. Right now, they're in a funk. They're struggling to field. They're struggling to hit with runners in scoring position. The bullpen's not been great. Right now, the only thing you can rely on is Eric Fisher to hit home runs and Liam Doyle to be a lockdown on Friday night. Outside of that, it's hit and miss. And so you might field it really good one game and field it bad the next. You may hit it really good one game and not the next. But who's to say that you don't get a reset here? I mean, how many teams that went from kind of the wild card or whatever? Wow. I mean, here, you look at the NBA playoffs. You know, this very well is setting up to be Indiana versus New York. Neither one of those were the 1-2 seeds, in the Eastern Conference. So I don't want to say it's just who they are, but they've got to figure it out, or it will be who they are, and they'll be home a week from now, 2 weeks from now, after getting bounced in the regionals. So they got to figure it out, starting this weekend on the road at a place that just does not lose at home a whole lot.
Austin, last one for you. Rick Barnes adding another veteran to his staff. Steve McLean, 33-year college basketball veteran coach. He's been a head coach before, was most recently an assistant at Texas. So they had Amaro Morgan, who had a cup of coffee at Florida State, and now this veteran coach in McLean. What value do you think he can bring to Rick Barnes' staff, and what did you kind of make of the reshuffling that Rick has done now with Rod Clark leaving and a couple openings there?
Yeah, he shifted Lucas Campbell into a different role, which allowed him to bring in McLean. And I mean, Amaro Morgan is a young guy, energetic recruiter, going to relate well to players. Justin Gainey is still young enough to where he kind of is in the same similar mold, even though he's a little bit older. And then you have, some older guys, right, on Rick's staff that, have the experience and maybe, a little more of a, steady hand when it comes to certain things. So he's got a nice balance, and obviously he's got a nice team right now, and we'll see what he does with that last open roster spot, or potentially more than one open roster spot, depending on what comes out of the House case and how many roster spots each team has for the coming season.
How good is it, though, Austin, to watch this rivalry between Tennessee and Vandy baseball kind of get as I want to call it nasty as it is right now? It's kind of fun.
Makes it fun. I obviously, Vanderbilt, 2-time national champ. Corbin's done fantastic things over there. Tony's come in, done fantastic things here in the same state. Tony went to national title. Some kids are from this state, some kids are not, and the ones that are, whether you're on one side or the other, they play with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I personally think it's fantastic. It's what makes sports fun. No rivalry's fun when the same team wins all the time. Right. Tennessee, Alabama, way more fun the last few years with them volleying back and forth wins. Not fun when Alabama wins off 16 in a row or Tennessee runs off 9 or 10 in a row before that. So it more fun, a little more volatile, and, we'll see where it goes from here. Maybe they'll rematch in Hoover, depending on what happens this weekend and where everybody's seeded out at.
I'm just imagining a super regional with an 8th-seeded Vandy against a 9th-seeded Tennessee, and the city of Nashville would be intense for that one. Would be a very fun time. Austin Price joins us Tuesdays at 8:20 here on the show. You follow him on Twitter at Austin Priceless. The very best coverage of Tennessee athletics, of course, with our friends at VolQuest.com. Thank you, Austin. Good to hear from you, sir.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Austin Price joining us this morning. I tend to agree with him on the baseball team. I'm a little less optimistic. Maybe that's just the way I'm wired, but they're too talented to give up on yet. Yeah. They're still way too talented to just say, that is who they are. I agree with Austin on that.
It to me, not to make it seem like it's a discipline thing, but it to me is a small detail thing with this team. The talent, I think, is probably number one in all of college baseball, maybe one or two other teams.
It's at least top five.
Top
I
five.
totally
There we
agree.
go. Top five.
Totally agree.
The small things in baseball, because it's such a sport of failure.
Well, it depends on, too, how you evaluate that talent. Like, on paper, if you're counting a full-strength A.J. Russell, then, yeah, they probably are the most talented team in college baseball. But that's not been a luxury Tennessee's been afforded, having a full-strength A.J. Russell for the entire season. And that's sports. You don't always get the best version of your team over the course of a season. That you got to make it work. They got enough resources to backfill that thing and have other options, but guys got to start stepping up this time of year.
Got to figure out their pitching staff, too.
Big time.
That stealing bases blip that they have on there.
I don't know if you can put Marcus Phillips back out there for a Saturday
Ain't just
start.
him, though.
I know.
Well, I know he's
and that's
mostly half of it, though.
Tennessee's given up the most stolen bases by an SEC team since 2015 this year, according to the broadcast over the weekend. Not good.
Not good.
Not good.